Hello YouTube, StuckInAPool here. Do you like Dark Souls? Do you enjoy getting your butt handed to you time and time again by vicious monsters and demons? Would you prefer these beatdowns to occur in historical Japan? If so, Nioh is guaranteed to be a good time for you. In Nioh you play as the English William Adams, who's based on a real guy who wasn't really a trained samurai. Quick disclaimer, I'm going to pronounce a lot of things incorrectly in this video, and for that I deeply apologize. I have no clue how to pronounce things in Japanese, because I am not cultured. So the combat, which as I mentioned is very much inspired by the Souls series, is fast and fluid, and allows you to utilize 7 main weapon groups, including katanas, dual katanas, spears, axes, bows, rifles, and handheld cannons, which will eventually be expanded into 20 types of weapons. During combat, you have to monitor your ki, which is akin to stamina in the Souls series. It allows you to attack, dodge, or block. And if you run out and an enemy strikes you, you'll be left vulnerable for a few seconds for a follow-up attack as William catches his breath. Ki can be restored by pressing R1 immediately following your attacks, which is called a ki pulse. Now beware, some demons can summon a dark mass called the Yokoi realm that will hinder your ki restoration while inside. Ki pulse, if timed properly, will purify the mass. While fighting, you can switch between 3 different stances. High stance, which is slow and favors attack power, as well as consuming more ki per attack. Middle stance, which favors guarding and parrying attacks. And low stance, which is faster and allows you to react more and dodge enemy attacks while delivering quick and less powerful strikes. You can also utilize ninjutsu and Onmyo magic to do a variety of things, such as self-buff, inflict statuses on enemies, or summon a guardian spirit to assist you, among many other things. You're also able to pick a guardian spirit that offers you specific bonuses as you play, depending on how you want to play. Some are more offensive bonuses, while some benefit more defensive playstyles. As you battle your way through each level, you can gain experience called Amrita, which can be spent at checkpoints to level you up, similar to souls and bonfires. And of course, if you die, you have one chance to get back to where you died to pick that precious Amrita back up. I apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong specifically, because my Spanish influence is contributing more so to that, so I'm sure I'm not pronouncing it correctly as it should be in Japanese. There's also a surplus of armor to be found, which fits into either the light, normal, or heavy categories. Weapons and armor you find along the way can be offered up at these checkpoints in exchange for some Amrita. You also gain gold, which can be spent between levels at the blacksmith to change weapons and armor attributes, as well as soul match, which allows you to essentially destroy one piece of armor or weapon to strengthen another one. So if you find a weapon that you really like, but is weak, you can power it up by sacrificing a stronger weapon. Weapons and armor vary in rarity from normal, unique, rare, and one of a kind. The rarer it is, the more unique attributes it will have, such as doing more damage while in high stance, or adding a fire element effect to your attacks. The main difference between this game and the Souls series is the fact that the Souls series are open world, while Nioh has specific levels and a mission select screen. As a bonus challenge, each level has a Twilight mode, which is essentially a harder version of a mission that is unlocked upon completing its normal difficulty. While being more difficult, it offers more rewards as well. Unfortunately, Twilight missions are only available at certain times during the day, so you may end up having to wait around a bit for a Twilight mission to unlock, which is a little inconvenient. The other big difference is the PvP and the co-op play. From the get-go, you'll see graves scattered around the level where other players have died, much like bloodstains in Dark Souls. You can interact with these graves to summon NPC versions of the players that died, who will then fight you. If you win, you will get some of their equipment as loot. As far as co-op goes, it seems that you can offer up a certain item to summon in someone help you at checkpoints in the level. There also seems to be a way to do matchmaking from the mission select menu, but I haven't really explored co-op at all, so I can't say anything for certain. Maybe if my friends got PS4s instead of Xbox Ones and checked out the demo. Anyway, this game's been in development hell for about a decade now, and I'm glad to see it's finally being finished, because it's really a great game. I mean, it's just a demo, but it's 2 missions and submissions, along with the Twilight variants. I've already given me, hours and hours of entertainment as well as a lot of frustration. I mean, I can't wait until the game comes out later this year, which it's scheduled to, so hopefully it doesn't get pushed back anymore. But as a bonus, if you complete the 2 main missions, you don't even have to do the Twilight modes or the submissions. Then you automatically earn like free DLC for the game, which I think's armor, but I can't say for certain. I also want to apologize for how much I've mentioned Dark Souls in this video so far, which like obviously Dark Souls is kind of one of my big things, but you can't really talk about this game without mentioning Dark Souls a lot because it's so very obviously heavily inspired by Dark Souls. Anyway, next I want to talk about the 3 boss battles that are currently available in the demo. So I probably died more trying to get to these bosses than actually fighting them, but I can safely say that they are really challenging until you figure them out. Even once you do, there's still very little room for error. One wrong move and you're completely out of stamina, and you can get comboed to death while you're stunned, and you can only helplessly watch as they beat you to death. That being said, let's talk about the first boss. The first boss is Ryoko, a big bad demon with 2 giant ball and chains. He likes to swing him at you and spin around and try and whack you in the face with them. A few tips for this fight. Speed is really important for this fight. His attacks are pretty easy to dodge because they're slow and he telegraphs them pretty well. So low stance is probably your best bet. But if you're fast and careful, then you could probably go mid or even high stance. He'll do a spinning attack, and it takes a while for it to wind up. But even if he's not fully wound up, as soon as he starts spinning, he'll do max damage to you. You can set him on fire with a fire talisman applied to your weapon or some bombs. And I was also able to poison him. Both status effects will help you a lot during this fight. At about 2/3 health, he'll enter the second stage of the fight, in which he breaks free from his chains and tries to smash you with his fists. If you do manage to drain all of his ki, your attacks can stun him, opening him up for some free hits. He'll also pick up the balls and throw them at you, so be on the lookout for that. He'll also do a jumping attack that can do massive damage if you're not careful. In the Twilight version of this fight, small demons will occasionally appear and help him in the fight, so be on the lookout for them as well, because they can sneak up on you and stun you, and open you up to an attack from him. The next boss is Hino-Enma. She is a creepy vampire succubus lady who will try to paralyze you, try to wear out your stamina, and then suck the life out of you. So here's a few tips on dealing with that. Bring anti-paralytic needles with you. In a pinch, it might save your life because paralysis does last for a really long time, or until you're hit, and both of those scenarios are pretty bad and can spell your death. She'll shoot out shockwaves that can damage you and apply the paralytic effect pretty quickly. Luckily they are telegraphed by a loud cry that you'll begin to recognize fairly quickly. She can either shoot these from the ground if she's far away, or she'll fly up in the air and shoot them down at you and also throw shurikens at you. She also has a dash that can apply the effect, and it is telegraphed by a backflip and that cry, so be on the lookout for that. In order to dodge either of these attacks, I would either sprint sideways or dodge immediately as they're about to hit you, but this is a little risky until you get the timing down because it has to be, you know, as the attack is happening. You can't do it before she begins. She has 2 main melee combos, which consist of 2 hits, either with kicks or with her sword, but she'll extend these to 3 hits if you're standing close enough. The best time for a quick follow-up attack is right after these combos though. Since the windows for hits are small, I'd suggest low or middle stance for this fight. She also does a spinning attack that will hit 3 times, which will eat most of your ki if you block, so dodging or sprinting backwards is the best way to avoid it. She will also lunge at you periodically, especially if you get exhausted, and try to drain your health. The best way to avoid this attack, as well as most of her attacks, are to dodge backwards. The only attacks that I wouldn't advise dodging backwards for are obviously the paralysis waves and her dash. In Twilight mode, she will summon demons to help her, but not in normal mode. Learning her move timing makes the fight significantly easier. I died at least 10 times to her normal variant, and not at all to her Twilight one, because even though it was more difficult, I had learned her moves and their timing. The last boss of the demo is Tachibana Muneshige. He's known as the unmatched warrior of the West, who simply wants an honorable duel with William. Here's a few tips to help you get the advantage on him. To start off the fight, which you can see that I will do, you can take a cheesy shot at his head to start and knock him down, which you can then sprint at him and follow up with a ground stab to get an easy advantage at the start. Just know it's a little less honorable to do so. He is lightning quick, and ironically, he buffs his sword with lightning, which will in turn slow you down, making it even harder to keep up with him. He can also summon his Guardian Spirit, which will sprint at you after a small delay and apply the lightning effect, so I advise sprinting sideways when he summons it to avoid it. His more brutal attacks and combos are usually signified by a shimmering sound, which is similar to the audio of the key pulse that you can do. During these, he can't be interrupted by your attacks, so if you hear this sound, I would advise sprinting away from him, because these attacks will do a lot of damage. Some of his moves can be parried, such as his jumping overhead slash, but his more powerful ones, like I mentioned earlier, cannot be. He is susceptible to knockdown moves, like the Spear and Tangle, which you can then follow up with a ground stab. A quick side note, there is a cheap strategy for this fight. If you get the timing down, you can knock him down repeatedly to make the fight trivial, like shown in this clip. But for your first time in the fight, I wouldn't suggest doing this, because the fight is really fun, and you want to experience the real thing. The most important tip for this fight is just take your hit opportunities carefully, because he has some very high damage moves that, for me, could do most of my health in one blow. For example, if he sheathes his sword and you hear that sound, sprint away, because he will do a slash that for me did about 1300 damage, which is really bad for me since I have about 1500 health. This depends a little on your armor, because I tend to use lighter armor. So if you use heavy armor, you might be a little better off, but you'll also have a little less ki to spend during the fight as well. He can also do a grapple punish on you if you run out of ki and do significant damage. For me, he did miss it on occasion though. However, if he gets low on ki, you can grapple punish him as well. The stance for this fight is largely up to you. High stance can work, but since attack windows are slim and ki conservation is so important, I wouldn't recommend it. Mid stance worked the best for me. So if you've enjoyed this gameplay and you do have a PS4, check out the free demo. It'll be up until September 6th, I think. So, thank you all for checking out the video, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!